Hey, good morning, everyone. So good to see everybody here in Theater 6. If we haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Garry, and we are so glad that you have decided to spend some of your time with us today. Whether you are here in person in Theater 6 or across the hall in our live stream venue, or joining us from your home via live stream, man, just so glad that you're here. As Russ mentioned, we're wrapping up a series we've been in for the last month called No Offence. And if you've missed any of those messages, if you're just tuning in for the first time or you've been away or whatever, don't worry, you can catch up online. Just go to themeetingplace.org. And on the top right-hand side, just click on messages and you can catch up there. And I'd encourage you to do so. It's been a blast going through this series. It's challenging, but man, oh man, do we ever need it. Because in a nutshell, what we've been doing is we've been exploring practical ways that we can respond in a better way in this culture of us versus them that we find ourselves in. There's so much polarization, so much division happening right now in our own country, our own city. There's, people against this and for that, and it's all over the place. So how do we respond as Jesus followers? How do we best respond when we find ourselves in that situation? Because we inherently know that as we make our way through life, if you got breath in your lungs, there are going to be people that annoy you and offend you, right? That's just the way it is. Hey, Siri, how are you? And if the same is true for us, we're going to offend and annoy people too. It's just the way it is. I would love it. I would truly love it, and I'm sure the same is going to be true for you, that we lived in a world where everyone drove at my pace. That they would do what I wish they would do. That they would hold to the same values and ideals as me. That all my friends and relatives would see things the way I saw them. Wouldn't that be great? And here's the thing. They don't. And they won't with you either. In fact, some will be quite upset by your entirely reasonable and passionate opinions. And so they will argue, get angry, complain, tweet, post, comment, gossip, and write you nasty emails to let you know as much. And sometimes that is going to hurt a lot. And so the question becomes, what do we do when someone offends us and forgiveness, reconciliation seems hard, if not impossible? The easy, natural response is to get angry, argue, complain, tweet, post, comment, gossip, and write nasty emails back, right? It's kind of what we looked at last week. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and an eye, right? You offend me, I'm going to offend you right back. I call that strategy for resolving conflict the Chinese food strategy. And you might be thinking, what? This guy's lost his mind. Well, that could be true, but here's what I mean by that. I love Chinese food, and if I go to the food court after a service here, which a lot of us often do, it's a great place to connect, but 9 times out of 10, if I go to the food court, I will get Chinese food. Here's why. One, I really like it. It's nothing, like sweet and sour pork. Oh, so good. And it's because we don't make it at home. So the only time I can get it is if I'm out, right? So I take advantage. But here's the thing with Chinese food, and I experience this every time I eat it, and maybe the same is true for you. It's great in the moment. Just, it tastes so good, egg rolls and all that type of stuff. And when I finished eating, I feel like, yeah, that was good. But here's the thing, and this happens every time without fail. Not long afterwards, I'm hungry again, and I want more. Responding to someone in kind, striking back to get your pound of flesh, is like eating Chinese food. It's satisfying at the time, but it never really satisfies for very long, and then you just want more. Okay? So put another way, you could look at it this way. Hurting someone back because they hurt you never, ever solves the conflict. It just doesn't. The only thing it does is it perpetuates it, because it never satisfies and gets down to the root of the real issue of your hurt. So the question remains, what do we do when someone hurts or offends us and forgiving them is extremely difficult? Well, thankfully, Jesus gave us a very clear simple, practical way to ensure that any kind of conflict doesn't go underground, because once it does, it will take root and threatens to divide us. And this little piece of wisdom that Jesus gave us is found in the first book of the New Testament, a book called Matthew. It's named after the man that wrote it. And Jesus taught about conflict in this passage that we're going to look at. And it is the very cornerstone of how we approach conflict here at the meeting place. And I believe, as the leadership and the staff do, that if you follow this, if we follow this, no matter what conflict you're facing, whether it's at home, at work, in the classroom, anywhere, if you follow this, you can work through conflict. And so here's what Jesus taught, and we're going to work through this. He says, if another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. But if you are unsuccessful, take one or two others with you and go back again, so that everything you say may be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. If the person still refuses to listen, take your case to the church, the larger group. Then if he or she won't accept the church's decision, treat that person as a pagan or a corrupt tax collector. Well, like I say, we're going to circle around here, okay? But I want you to know, if you're here this morning and you have a background that involves church, that passage might be laden with some emotional baggage for you. Over the years, I have talked to several people who have had a church experience where this particular passage had been leveraged and used as a formula to justify how to kick someone out of a church that doesn't agree with you. It's sometimes interpreted like this. If someone breaks a rule or doesn't toe the line in some way, shape, or form, you call them out on it. It's like, hey, what are you doing? If they don't repent, turn from it the way you think they should, well, then you go find some other people who kind of agree with you, and then you go back and tell them, you tell these people, hey, this is what this person did. You should see it. And then you go, what? Oh, man, that's just not right. So then you go back to the person and you say, hey, just so you know, these people over here, they all agree with me. I'm right, you're wrong. This is how it goes. And then if that person still doesn't respond the way you want them to or think they should, you insist somebody in authority step into the situation. And if they still refuse to talk or resolve the conflict, well, now you've got grounds to just kick them out. Have nothing to do with them. Shun them. Now, I get that I may be painting that with a fairly big brush, but sadly, that happens in churches all the time. So here at the meeting place, we come at this passage in a way that we believe is more in line with how Jesus desires to see us live. To live this abundant life that he came to give us and has for us. And if we just simply, but not easily, because they're not the same thing, but follow what he teaches and how to interact with each other, man, just life just goes so much better. Okay? It's a healthy community. I mean, it's huge. So the first thing that Jesus says in this whole thing is, when someone has offended you, in whatever way that is, he says, go talk to them directly, in person and in private. Which means what we do not do is go talk to someone else about it. We don't lean over to the person sitting next to us and go, you believe what that jerk just did? I can't believe it. We don't go tell our friends. We don't go tell their friends, hey, did you hear what they did? We don't go tell our spouse or our significant other. We don't talk to a pastor or a staff member or someone on leadership. We don't talk to anyone except the person who offended us. That's the first thing we do. And we do it, as we've been talking about throughout this whole series, with an attitude of humility. Maybe we heard them wrong. Maybe we misunderstood what they were saying. We just took it the wrong way. Maybe we weren't listening. We talked about that the first week, right? You know, we're slow to listen, but quick to speak, quick to get angry. So maybe we didn't hear what they said. Maybe we missed in our without listening, we actually missed what they were trying to say or do or convey to us. And so what we try and do is first put ourselves in their shoes. Because remember, we don't know their story, right? And then share with them what they did or what they said, how that impacted us. Okay? We don't blame them. We don't accuse them. We try instead to understand and then express how what they said or what they did has impacted us. And we do it in a kind, humble, calm way. We don't go in guns a-blazing. And here's the thing. If we do that, and this is completely unscientific, but my estimation, is that if you do that 97.567355% of the time, it'll be resolved. Again, just a rough estimate. But more often than not, if we humbly initiate a conversation with somebody that we're having conflict with the intention of seeking to understand, like, what is actually going on here? This is how it's impacted me. How's it impacting you? And try to make a difference rather than a point. We talked about that the first week. If we do that, the relationship, the friendship, has a chance to grow deeper. And if you've been through this, you know this to be true. The trust and respect for each other grows and elevates itself. And so, but here's the thing. It's rare for people to take the initiative of entering into a conversation like that. Which raises the question, why? I mean, why, if the upside is so positive, would we hold back from doing that? Well, I'll throw this out there for you to think about. Here's what I suggest it is. I think it's one word. It's fear. We're afraid of how they might react. Oh, if I go to them, they might freak out. I know they will. We fear that we might say the wrong thing. We fear that we're just going to make things worse. And I know this because it's what I tend to do. This is my auto default. Here's how it plays out with me. And maybe you can track with this. Maybe not. But in leadership circles, there's this quite a common thing. You know, if you want to be a good leader, great communicator, it's respond in the moment. If you're in a disagreement with somebody's offended you, said something that you took the wrong way, the advice is to lean into it right away. Just like in the moment. Just have your conversation. And you know what? That's great. If you have some level of trust with that person. But in most situations, I feel the time-tested, wisdom-centered advice has been to step back, kind of collect your thoughts, consider your response before you just hop in and put your foot in your mouth, right? Personally, I've never been good at responding in the moment. It's just not me. Especially if my emotions have been tweaked and I'm kind of like, blah. I've had way more success kind of walking away, processing stuff, calming down, thinking through, and then going back and saying, okay, here's what happened with me, share what happened with you, and then working it through that way. Here's the danger in that. So I understand this other, in the moment thing, but because here's the danger in stepping back and thinking it through. As time passes, it's really, really easy to begin to rationalize not talking to them at all. I mean, why bring it up again? Everything seems to calm down. Maybe I overreacted. It's going to be fine. I don't need to talk to them anymore. I'm not going to rock the boat. Well, that strategy, this don't rock the boat, the fear of rocking the boat, although it sounds great, never makes things better, does it? I mean, maybe in the short term, it might seem like, oh yeah, we made it through. Yay, look at us, we worked it out, right? But there's no relationship repair happening. There's no increased understanding. There's no relief from the hurt. It's only being swept under that proverbial rug, only to come out later, which we always see it come out later. Fear. It's the one thing that so often keeps us from following Jesus' teaching on this. And so what do? Well, we do absolutely anything but go talk to the person. We'll bottle it up. We'll deny it. We'll gossip about it. We'll avoid it. We'll rationalize it, get mad at it, get sad about it, vent about it on social media. Anything but go see the person. But Jesus is extremely clear. He says, look, step one, the first thing you do when you've been offended by somebody is go to that person. One-on-one, by yourself. Talk to them in private. And again, do it with that spirit of gentleness, graciousness, kindness, humility. And before we go on to the next part of Jesus' teaching, it's interesting to note that Jesus says, go to the person. Don't write a text. Don't formulate an email. Don't DM them, direct message. Don't even phone them or FaceTime them or Zoom them. Now, you're probably sitting there going, hey, hang on a second. They didn't have phones and computers back when of course he's going to say, go, because that's all they could do. Okay, fair enough. But think about this for a second. How many times have you received a text or an email from somebody, read it, and went, what? And you stew about it. And then you bump into the person, and you go, yeah, that text you sent, I just can't believe you said that. And it's like, well, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that at all. And you're like, what? Well, that's how I read it. It's like, no, you misunderstood me. Oh, really? Oh, huggy, right? Happens all the time. Look, body language and tone and voice inflection, facial expressions, all of those together convey what we're really trying to say. No amount of, smiley faces squirted into a text message can convey the difference between sarcasm and rudeness, teasing and disrespect, being brief and being a jerk. It just won't. We're deceiving ourselves if we think we can work our way through a resolution of conflict through text. It's not going to happen. Go to the person, personally, private, one-on-one. And if it doesn't go well, Jesus, in his wisdom, gives us a way to keep moving forward. And he said, take one or two others with you and go back again. Okay, so you've already been once. That's key. Now you can go back again. And you take people with you so that everything that you say and they say can be confirmed. Right? So it's not this, they said, I didn't say that, yes you did. It's all right up front. And so, how do we do this? Well, you find someone you trust, someone you feel comfortable with, a friend, and you ask them to come with you, not to take your side, because remember, you haven't told them what's going on, right? They have no idea. You just say, hey, can you come with me? I need to talk to this person. That's key. Now, if you go and do that, and for some reason this person's like, I don't really care. I want nothing to do with this. They refuse to talk. They just keep ramping up the conflict, get threatening, whatever it happens to be. Then and only then is it appropriate to talk to someone else in charge. Kind of go up the chain, so to speak, and say, hey, we need some help here. Can you come and help us navigate this conflict? And if for some reason that doesn't work, and this person is still causing conflict, refusing to own their piece of it, refusing to forgive or anything like that, then Jesus says, treat them like a tax collector. Now, tax collectors, back in Jesus' time, were despised. They were like the bottom of the barrel. And here's why. Tax collectors were ripping off their fellow countrymen. They were living in an occupied territory. Romans occupied it. And the Romans had taxes that they wanted collected. And so they would hire people to collect their taxes. And here was the deal. You could charge a tax on the tax. And they didn't care how much you charged, as long as they got their cut. And so these people would start charging their fellow countrymen an exorbitant tax on top of the tax so they could pad their own pockets. And people would say, what are you doing? It's like, I don't want to hear about it. This is my way. Right? Now, here's the interesting thing in this. This is really cool. Matthew, the guy that wrote this, remember in the book of Matthew, was at one time a tax collector. Interesting. One day, Jesus, Matthew's at his tax collector booth, hey, pay your tax. And along comes Jesus. And he strikes up a conversation with him, much to the horror of all the religious people that were following him around. It's like, what is he talking to him for? And Jesus ended up going to a party at Matthew's house with Matthew's tax collector buddies. And I can't help but see the whole thing in this is like, Jesus is like, look, if you have a conflict with someone and you can't come to a resolution, you just can't resolve it, you've tried everything, like the verse we looked at last week, as far as it depends on you, if it is possible, be at peace with everyone, right? So you've tried it, it's not working. I can't help but say Jesus is like, look, if you have to part ways, do it in such a way that you could still party together. Instead of, you walk down the grocery aisle and it's like, oh, there they are. You duck down another aisle. It's like, no, Jesus is like, don't do that. And so here's the thing. Whether you're new here or you've been here for a while, here's what you need to know about this place, this church. Our commitment to do what Jesus taught in Matthew 18 is key to what makes this church unique. Okay? One of the things that we clearly lay out in our partnership class, our essentials exploring class that Russ was talking about earlier, class 1, which, by the way, just reminders, next week, who wants to call the meeting place home. It's like, I love what you guys do here. I'm totally on board with the vision and the mission. We go through what we call the Matthew 18 agreement. It's right in our partnership covenant. And so everyone who is a partner here, some churches call them members. We like to use the word partner because it evokes that linking of arms, doing things together rather than membership has its privileges, right? So we just call them partners. We have all committed to follow Matthew 18 to the best of our ability, okay? Because we're not going to get this 100% right, but we sure try. And so this is what this means to you. If someone at any point comes to anyone on staff, any of the pastors, any of the leadership team, if anyone comes up to me and says, and wants to talk about a problem they have with you, and again, whether you're a partner here or not doesn't matter, I will not say, oh, really? We should go have a coffee. I won't say that. What I will say is, have you gone and talked to that person? Have you gone and talked to them? And if they say, oh, no, Pastor, yeah, you really need to hear about this. Like, trust me. That's when I'll say, well, I'm sorry. I understand how you feel. Maybe you're frustrated, whatever. I don't want to hear about it. Because we don't do that around here. That's gossip. We don't play that game. And if they say, well, I'd like to go talk with them, but they're pretty aggressive and scary looking. Okay? So I just don't want to do it. Or if they say, well, I tried to talk to them and it just didn't go anywhere. That's when I'll say to them, hey, who is someone you could take with you? Someone that you trust, someone that you feel safe with. I can help you with that. Find somebody if you like. And if they say, yeah, okay, I can do that, then awesome. Sweet. But if they say, no, I'm not really comfortable with that, then my response to them is going to be, I'm sorry, but around here, don't be talking to anyone until you go talk to them directly. Nobody. Again, it's gossip. It's destructive, and it ruins people, and it ruins organizations, and we don't put up with it around here. Have you ever heard of Matthew 18? And I've heard this play out in the lobby, so I know this happens. So our promise to you, regardless of whether you're a guest here, a casual attender, a committed partner, is that we will not entertain in, engage in, or participate in any way anyone saying anything bad about you, complaining about you, or listen to gossip about you. We just won't do it. Okay? And you know what? As a result of that, this church has been the most healthy, authentic, positive community I've ever been a part of. And I firmly believe that it's because we have taken these words of Jesus to heart and we've committed to them in order to create a safe environment for everyone to come and hear about God's amazing love for them. Now, are we perfect? Not even close. Every time I walk in this place, it kind of falls apart. But we're still learning. We're still learning this stuff. Imperfectly, clumsily, we're tripping all the time. But we're learning, and we're committed to continue to learn. And that's why we've introduced this discipleship pathway, the river, with the class 1, 2, 3, and 4, and all the other different courses that are going to go along with that. Because we're committed to this. We're to go make disciples, and that's what we want to do. So here's the thing. When we end up offending each other and hurting each other, we truly believe around here that, like the band sang, if we do that, we can work it out. We really believe that. Because life is short, and there is no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. It just isn't. Listen to these words from the Bible, describing how Jesus loves the church. I love this. It says, Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. Everything he does and says is designed to bring out the best of her. You know what the cool thing about those words is? Is the church is made up of people. People like you and people like me. It's not brick and mortar and glass. It's people. And so here's the challenge this week as we wrap this series up. Is do my words, evoke the beauty and the brilliance of those around us? And do your words and do your actions bring out the best in others? It's a challenge, to be sure. I mean, this stuff is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. We have to work together at this. But it's a challenge worth taking on because that's what Jesus did. We're going to talk about that in a minute in communion. And here's the cool thing. If we ask Jesus to help us, he will. And we can begin to learn how to live with no offense. And this journey, this last few weeks, has just been fantastic with you guys. So let's go out there and we'll just be those people, right? That just love on each other. Let's be the salt and light that Jesus calls us to be. And so I invite you to pray with me. God, man, the church in and of itself is probably perfect until people enter into it. But that's what the church is. It's made up of people. And you've called us to be a city on a hill. When we come together, the light that we have because of you that's inside us, we come together, we're like a city on a hill, a beacon of hope in a dark world. And so I just pray that, as we come together, we're going to have our differences and disagreements, and that's okay. We can still live together in healthy community when we follow your teaching on how to best deal with each other when we've been offended. To not just not talk about it and hope it goes away and it's all better, but to actually have those conversations and knowing that you are right at the center of them. And so we thank you for all the practical ways that we've gone through over these past few weeks on how we can better respond as followers of you in a world of us versus them. Thank you. And we pray all of this in your powerful name. Amen.